What's going on? A to Z Sports here live on a Tuesday morning. Sam Phelan and Easton Freeze with you. I am back. Easton, you are back. Welcome back as we, continue to recap last week of free agency. The Titans have been dormant and staying quiet in the days since. So, no real new news to talk about, but there is some contract updates, I suppose, that we'll provide for you guys to open off the show. Then we're going to look at the Titans' overall philosophy, their roster building philosophy, and really start to call our shot. Easton and I going to zero in on the breakout player that you might not see coming, that you need to keep your eye on for the 2025 season. And then, of course, I can't help myself, chat. We have to talk a little bit of bracket. Easton's going to fire off some questions to me about the tournament he had. Doing a whole lot of research. I got about 100 Post-it notes sitting here at my desk that I've been making throughout the course of the college basketball season. I'm ready to roll for March, so if you need some help filling out your brackets, we're going to assist you in that today before we head out and throw in shade to cap off the show. Easton, tell the folks what to do.
Yeah, good morning, Sam. Good morning, everybody in the comments. Hope you're having a great start to your week. Got a good show for you today, but first, make sure you've liked the show on Facebook, on YouTube. Hit that like button for us. It's the easiest way that you can be a friend of the program today. Got a lot of Titans talk. Going to do some March Madness talk. Going to be a good one. Going to be a tight show today. Like it. Hit that like button, and now we can get rolling.
All right, let's do it officially. Welcome into A to Z Sports Live on a Tuesday morning and every weekday morning at 8 Central Time, streaming on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch. Links to the show are tweeted out segment by segment on our Twitter X timeline as well. At ATOZ Sports is where you can find us there, so check those out. Follow us on Instagram and TikTok for more Titans coverage. And leave a 5-star Google review. Leave a 5-star Google review. It helps us out more than you can know. Got to thank our sponsors this morning for making the show happen and helping out all of you there. Wilson County Hyundai. Make Wilson County Hyundai a part of your new car buying process in Lebanon or at wilsoncountyhyundai.com. The Bone and Joint Institute, the region's destination for comprehensive orthopedic and sports medicine care. Boneandjointtn.org is where to go to schedule your appointment. And our friends at Bart Durham Injury Law, because a crash can change your life forever, but help is just one click away at bartdurham.com. Okay, Easton, like I said off the top, not a ton of Titans news, but I do want to sort of get to one thing that came out yesterday, which is the contract details. This happens every year. We get free agency, we get that figure, that public figure of what the money amount is, and then a week, 2 weeks, however long later, we actually find out what the real contract is going to look like for the Titans, and that is where we're at with left tackle Dan Moore, whose contract details came out. Here's what we have from Zach Lyons over at 104.5 The Zone. Cash in 2025, $30 million. That we already had down. We already knew that. It leads to a cap hit of 2.875 in 2025. His 2026 cap hit, pretty big at 26.375, the largest of the entire contract. The out for the Titans will be after the 2026 season. So essentially 2 years for Dan Moore before the Titans have an out with dead cap at 12.75. Easton, this is a lot of numbers. This can be confusing, I think, for some fans to see initially. Go ahead and break this down and I guess give us your thoughts on these details. What is it? How does it change how you view the Dan Moore signing for the Titans?
Yeah, so like you said, essentially a 2-year, $50 million contract for Dan Moore. A lot different feel, right, than when you look at the headline of 4 years, $82 million or whatever it ended up being. It's like you said, a very common story. We find out days later that these contracts are a little bit more reasonable than they seem. Of course, the agents want those numbers to look as big and inflated as possible. You hear everybody for a week talking about, well, Dan Moore got $80 million. No, he didn't. He got a 2-year, $50 million contract, which is still a lot of money. But to me, a 2-year, $50 million contract for a starting caliber left tackle is, you could argue it's a bargain. It is really not. We know that all told, this is an overpay on paper, but I just keep thinking about if Dan Moore is just league average, the 16th, 18th best left tackle in the league, for 2 years to protect Cam Ward, then it will have been worth every penny and then some. That's the reality of how important that position is, how important having two tackles with tackle is a floor position, right? In an article that I wrote in an interview with Brandon Thorne, one of the probably the foremost offensive line mind in NFL media right now over at Trench Warfare, which is a fantastic Substack. He sat down with me last week and was talking about, and I recommend folks go read this at A2ZSports.com. Tackle is a floor position where it is awesome to have the best tackles and to have guys that you can leave on an island and have elite traits and all of these things like that. Of course, that's incredible. But if, I think the most important thing, and his point was the most important thing with tackle is reaching a certain bar, being tall enough to ride the ride. And that is worth paying. Some positions you only want to pay the elite traits. You don't want to pay the guys that are fine. You want to pay the guys that are incredible. At tackle, because of the supply and demand of it all, it is reasonable to say you want to pay the guys that meet the minimum requirements, that are tall enough to ride the ride as a starting NFL left tackle. Because at any given point, there are probably 16 to no more than 20 of those guys in the league. And so that's what the Titans have done here. And so, these numbers, I think 2-year, $50 million contract is very palatable for me for a fine left tackle. I think it's a fine contract.
Let me ask you a question real quick, because one of the things I find interesting when you look at this breakdown is the cap hit, right? And the low cap hit in 2025 at 10.8 that jumps up to 26 in 2026. Easton, let's make sense of this, because I think Titans fans, a normal response, a question that I even have myself, right, is the Titans have $38 million in cap space, effective cap space, $44 million in total cap space sitting right now. They're the 6th highest cap total of remaining of any team in the NFL. I don't get the vibe, nor do I think you get the vibe, that they're going to make some more significant additions that are going to cost them $20+ million like this offseason. I think there will be a thing here, a thing there.
I don't know about that.
I mean, do we really think $36 million remaining? I don't think the Titans are going to get close to that cap number.
Well, so here's what's kind of sneaky about it. Maybe they don't, but when I was reviewing the other day, we keep talking about, we're going to continue to talk about this Washington model, the Washington model. And a lot of folks take issue with it because they don't quite understand what we're talking about. Specifically in free agency, the way that Washington built through free agency is very similar to the way that the Titans want to build through free agency. And something that Chad Brinker and Mike Borgonzi and these guys have said on and off the record is, hey, Washington, I believe 26 free agents they ended up signing last year, which is a ton of free agents. 22 of them were 1-year deals. And when I went back and was looking at some of the timeline, I was trying to find the timeline of when the Commanders signed who last year. And you know this, but I think maybe some fans don't know it or have forgotten it. Free agency is weird, where we get it in waves. And there's a phase 1, phase 2, phase 3, sometimes even a phase 4 after the draft. But that first wave is the first 72-ish hours of week 1, essentially, maybe a little bit longer than 72 hours, but most of it happens in those first 3 days. And then it's kind of quiet like it is right now. And then randomly, sometime in the next week, we're going to see a flurry of moves that are, a bunch of guys that were in the second tier, the second bucket of players. And the Titans are going to be a part of that. And then a week or two after that, you're going to see it again. And I don't really know why. I mean, maybe it's just the logistics of how these teams go about talking to agents, or, I'm not sure why it's this specific song and dance, but it's the way that it is. And at this point last year, when the Commanders ended up signing 26 free agents by the time they got to opening day, they had signed like 8 or 9 guys, I think, by my count. So the Titans have, I'm writing an article either today or tomorrow about the remaining needs on the Titans depth on the 53 guys that potentially are going to play and where they're likely to come from for the Titans, whether it's free agency or the draft. And when I'm going through the list, there are still a lot of holes, not super dramatic, significant holes, right? There are, edge, big holes, receiver, big holes. And we've talked about that. But there are a lot of, they need a safety 3. They need a running back 3. They need a tight end 3. There are a lot of holes that they're going to plug depth-wise through free agency that they haven't yet. And so if the Titans, because they're so far they've signed how many free agents, including guys of their own, 6 or 7, something like
10.
that.
I'm
Yeah,
more than
less
that.
than 10, single digit.
No, maybe more.
You think so?
I
A
mean, if
dozen,
you look
maybe?
at, I mean, I can pull it up if we actually need the figure here. Let me pull it up real quick. Everybody that the Titans have signed thus far in free agency, I'll pull up my free agent tracker, which you can find yourself on A to Z Sports.
Perfect.
That including re-signings, they have signed Morgan Cox, Dan Moore, Cody Barton, Andrew Repstich, Daryl Baker, Sebastian Joseph Day, Johnny Hecker, Mike Brown, Xavier Woods, Van Jefferson, Blake Hance, Dre'Mont Jones, Kevin Zeitler, Brandon Allen. 14 players. They
Okay.
made
Okay. So by
14
my
signings.
very quick count there, I believe that was 9 guys that weren't on the roster and 5 guys that were that they
Zeitler,
brought back.
Allen, Jones, Hance, Jefferson, Woods, Hecker, Barton, Moore. You are correct. 9 new addition signings for the Titans in free agency.
Okay, so 9 new additions, and if we think they're going to get somewhere near what the Commanders did again with a bunch of one-year deals, and it's not just that they keep saying it that makes me think that. Again, it's going through the roster and looking at how many holes they have, of which there are like a dozen. You know, if they still have a dozen free agent contracts to hand out, maybe more, and they're all going to be, 1 or 2 year deals that are between $2 and $6 million a piece, that adds up in a hurry. And so I think
Yeah.
that's going to be a big chunk of the cap, and we're going to be surprised by how much they dig into it.
So the reason, that's the reason I ask, right, is because we're sitting here, like I just said, with a figure of 38 essentially $1 million for the Titans in effective cap space. And I saw a comment earlier. Chris said they have to sign draft picks. Effective cap space is a cap space that is set aside, like that includes signing draft picks, right? So the Titans have 45.7 total $1 million in cap space for 2025, but effective cap space is including the money that they know that they will have to spend, what's left over. So that's not a factor with that figure. I take it a little bit. I guess it's a little surprising to me that in a year that is still, like, admittedly, as we talked about, like a stepping stone year for the Titans at best, right? It's a progress year for the Titans where you have this cap space available, that they would be so low on the cap figure for Dan Moore and take such a hit in 2026, when I would assume you're going to want to be as aggressive as possible in free agency in 2026. If everything goes to plan in 2025 and you take this step and you've supported a sustainable offensive line in front of a young quarterback and you have a lot of these pieces in place, 2026 is your go year. But you're taking an extra $16 million cap hit in 2026 for a player that you already have, that you could potentially be paying more now to free up more space next season. That's why I find it interesting.
I hear you. And that's fair. A very funny comment just came across from the distinguished gentleman. The cap is fake. Ask the Saints.
I mean, and that's why
that's the worst team to ask. The cap is real. Ask the Saints is the correct thing to say.
Do not ask the Saints.
The Saints will tell you that it's very real.
Yeah, I mean, like, the cap is fake in a sense, right?
The
like,
cap is malleable.
And
the cap's going up, right? That's another thing we always forget, is that next year the cap's going to be over $300 million.
So I think that's a factor, right? Like more money next year, because there will be more money to be spent next year.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, like, the Titans' current cap situation on overthecap.com, 2026, they're sitting right now with the 5th most cap space at 102 million in effective cap space currently available for next season. So you can't spend $102 million in an offseason. That's like damn near impossible to do.
They tried last year.
They did. They did.
Tried.
Tough thing to do.
Just looking over my notes here, roughly speaking, and again, I'm writing about this in detail if you're wondering why I say some of the things I'm about to say. They still need, and this is not even including depth guys. So there's probably another 5 to 6 players that, they need to add. They're going to be really, really cheap. But they need a receiver 2, 3, edge 1, 4, running back 3, tight end 3, cornerback 4, 5, linebacker 2, safety 3. There's a lot of holes still left to plug on this roster that they're going to have to get. They're going to get in free agency, and they're going to be some useful players, some players that you're going to see on the field.
Say those again, and I'm going to say, let's slow it down. I will say yes or no on whether I think the Titans will actually make a substantial addition at the position.
Okay, receiver 2 and 3.
Yes, but one will be in the draft.
At least. Edge 1 and 4, which you could argue 1 and 2, but I'm being nice and saying 1 and 4.
I also think edge 1 comes from the draft.
Yeah, exactly. A
So I
depth
don't
guy
think
or
there's a
two
big.
from free
So let's.
agency. A
I'm using
rotational
free
guy or
agency
two.
here.
Yeah.
Sure.
Running back 3.
Free agency, maybe.
Yeah, I
Maybe
could
the
see. I
draft
could see either way. I really
could be
could.
either one. But I do think they add a running back at some point.
Tight end in 3.
No.
No, they're
May-
going to
may-
replace Van Ness. They have to. That
yeah,
role.
but maybe like it could be a undrafted free agent. Like
It
it
could.
could be like that's what I don't think it'll be a significant investment.
Yes, yeah, well, yes, but we're just talking about will they sign a guy or will they not?
Sure.
And
But like
spoiler, I think that will, based on the things that I've heard, I think that the tight end 3 position will be either a UDFA or a free agent signed after the draft. So you're right
correct.
that it's
I fully agree with that.
cornerback 4-5. I think they might draft a guy sneaky. We're going to talk about this in the next month, but
yeah,
we've already gotten
I
one
would
visit
say of all of
Upton
those
Stout,
all
cornerback
of
coming in.
those that you said, I would say that's the one I'm least confident in, because you just thinned your cornerback room. Like if you felt like the need to add a corner, like I don't know why you're intentionally thinning your cornerback room unless
Well, I think
just
you're adding
really
a depth
trying.
corner because you
Yeah,
got rid of a guy at the top, you bump some guys up, you got to put some guys back in at the
right. But
reserve position. So
I mean, you already have 4 corners, so like
yeah, you always need more than 4 corners, though.
yeah, but how do they feel about like a Gabe Judy Lolly, right? Like that's okay. Do you like Gabe Judy Lolly more than you like a UDFA guy? I would be surprised if they drafted one. Given
Do
all
you
the
like
names
last year's UDFA guy more than you like this year's UDFA guy?
That's the question I asked.
Yeah,
Yep.
yeah. Linebacker 2, still a big hole.
No. I mean, no.
They got to get him somewhere. Who?
We'll talk about it.
Okay. And then safety 3. And
Also no, probably. I mean, there could be somebody, but like I think they like Mike Brown enough to make him the safety 3.
Okay, we disagree on some of those, but it's an interesting little conversation. Read my article later this week.
All right. So overall summary, Easton, before we move on here, Dan Moore contract better than it comes across now because of the new details. Would you agree?
Yeah, not quite as better as the Sam Darnold one, by the way, not to change the topic entirely. Did you see that? Essentially a 1-year deal up there in Seattle.
Sam Darnold, Seattle's looking real good with that contract. I think you're really happy with that. Like, I mean, the figure everybody went, again, as we talked about earlier, you went 100 million. Sam Darnold got a bag, and it's not really a big deal.
Oh,
for
it's
the
a
Seahawks.
It's a 1-year, $30 million contract,
which is a bag. Hey, that is a bag.
Sure,
sign me up for that.
Yeah, I'll take one of those.
I'll do anything for that.
I do. You know what? I'm a flexible guy. I'd do half of that.
What is the worst job you would work for a 1-year, $30 million contract? I'm not sure there is one.
Maybe the better question is, what job would I not work?
Well, that's what I'm saying. Like, what is it? Where's the threshold of like, this job, I'm out?
I mean, like, if it required me to like be the first person to go to Mars or something, and there was a decent chance I'd die in the process, maybe I think about it.
No, see, we'll talk about this with the bracket thing, but like, this is your prize if you win the bracket challenge. Now, I don't know if you saw this.
What to go to Mars?
X.com, Elon is running a bracket challenge similar to the one Warren Buffett did, and if you get the perfect bracket, he sends you to Mars.
Free. You get shipped across the solar system. That's insane. That's a terrible prize. Yeah, I mean, it's sick if you want if you want to go to Mars, I guess.
Like funny. But Warren Buffett was like, I will give you $1 billion of my $20 billion net worth. Elon's like, I'm going to send you to Mars, or get this, or you can take the cash prize settlement.
So take the cash prize settlement.
It's $100,000.
That's all it costs to go to Mars?
I'm like that. No, which is why I'm like, there's no way that's in a good. Elon really just wants to send someone to Mars.
He's dying to send some hoop head to Mars.
I think if you're given that scenario, you probably just go to Mars, because you definitely become like kind of famous as the dude who went to Mars, and then you
do, but you got to stay there. Like it's not a weekend trip.
No, he can bring you back.
Yeah, after 2, I mean the window, not to get too geeky, the window to go from Earth to Mars.
This some Martian talk right now.
This is quick Martian talk. The window to travel from Earth to Mars, because of the way that our planets orbit the sun, comes around every 2 years. So if you go, you're there for at least 2 years. And you also
Well,
have to try to not die in the process of
so that, I
going
mean,
and then being and then coming
that,
back, which are
but
three good
it's a
ways to
decent
die.
question. 2 years on Mars, you come back and you're like super famous, and then you're just like chilling for the rest of your life. Worth it?
If you don't die in the process. Also think about the logistics of this. This is going to be, if it happens, it's going to be some nerdy guy in his basement that's a total hoop head, and he's going to be
No, it's
on
gonna be
the.
some lady who picked the mascots. Like,
That's a
it's
good
gonna be
point. The point is, it's going to be some random, probably dumb person on this like Earth, history shattering, big step for mankind mission with like our brightest, greatest space soldiers.
I would assume they would not send you alone, right? They're gonna send you
No,
with
you're not
like
going to be alone, but you're going to. I mean, it's going to be like that meme of all the soldiers with the
yeah,
clown in the middle.
it's gonna be the
Yeah,
one dragon that's like,
yeah, the
like it's
derpy
like
dragon. That's going to be
the
you.
the U.S. sending our brightest and best, and
And
then
for 2
it's
years on this Martian colony
the guy who
settlement,
just
you're going to be useless to these scientists. You're going to
it's
be
a
like,
but
"Hey, can I help out?" And they're going to be like, "No, don't touch anything."
yeah, it's gonna be a bunch of that, and then it's gonna be the one dude that called the BYU national title, and it's like the world's best, and then that one dude that picked the right Cinderella. All
I'd go to
right,
the moon or like to the ISS. I don't want to go to Mars.
the moon would be sick.
I'd go to the moon. Heck
Hot
yeah,
to quick
that's a weekend. That's a weekend
gut
trip right there.
gut check, Easton. By the end of our lifetime, will moon trips be like readily available and sold to humans?
Commercially available trips to the moon.
Yes.
I do think so. I don't think that they'll be like even remotely affordable by the time we're dead, but I do think so. I
Like
think
you
I think
like
we'll
you
I think
pay
we'll probably
50
have like
pay 50 grand, you can go to the moon kind of a thing.
yeah, I mean
We
maybe
should put
more
like
than
a
that, but
all right, here another gut check. Hotel on the moon. Yes or no?
hotel
Will it happen?
ever? Yes. In our lifetime, I think we'll probably see a colony on the moon in the next 20 years or so, but I don't know about it's going to be scientific. To go from science to like commercial resort is a pretty significant step.
Dude, but like in the last 60 years, they like found the moon. And they're like, we can go here. And
I
now we
know.
got like,
Well, but then we took like 50 years off. So,
yeah.
you know,
All right. Well, we'll move it along. We're gonna do a little bit of a
more
breakout.
moon talk later this week. Check
More
check it
moon
out.
talk. More moon talk. We're gonna do a little bit of breakout potential talk. Easton and I gonna call our shot a little bit with the Titans in 2025, or at least attempt our
We've got
best.
some moon landing deniers in the comments, by the way.
Oh gosh, this is not why we had this
It's
conversation.
to the next 90 minutes on was the moon landing real?
Yes, that is the question for the chat. You guys spoiled it. We are actually gonna ask you guys about the moon landing.
Chime in. You buying that moon landing thing? You buying that? Buy or sell?
Let us know. Yes. All right. There we go. We just did it. All right. Let us know in the chat. While you guys do that, we'll let you know about the Bone and Joint Institute. They're gonna love that ad read, by the way. The region's destination for comprehensive orthopedic and sports medicine care. The Bone and Joint TN.org. Whenever you get hurt in life, you have to know who to trust. The Bone and Joint Institute is located in Franklin. They've got over a dozen specialists who can help you through any type of injury. It's a state-of-the-art rehab facility on campus to help your recovery. They can do everything under one roof. Maximum convenience with testing, imaging, surgery, rehab, the clinic. It's all there off the highway in Franklin. You can get in, you can get out, you can get home. So schedule your appointment with them. boneandjointtn.org.
Yeah, clip that off and put it on your website, Bone and Joint. The moon landing was fake, but Bone and Joint Institute is real. We are going to actually get back to actual football things here in just a minute. But first, you got to make sure that you guys have liked the show. I know that it has been a strange one so far, but if you believe the moon landing was real, you need to like the show right now. That is hopefully what you think, because it is obviously real. And I can see the like number on my screen, which is really not good. So hit the like button a little bit more. A couple of you guys haven't liked it. You've been sidetracked. You've been enamored by our moon and Mars talk, but it's time now to click that like button. Thank you very much. All right, now, Sam, we can actually get back to maybe some potential young breakout stars on the Tennessee Titans roster.
Yes. All right. Well, the reason this conversation stems, Easton, it comes from what Mike Borgonzi has said is their idea, their strategy, this draft and develop theory of roster building. And it also comes from the moves that they've made in the offseason, moves like this one, the Cheeto Awuzie getting cut, 8 games in 2024, somewhat minimal cap savings for the Titans in 2025. They move on from a guy who you can say what you want. So I guess real quick that we cannot let this become a tangent. But did you think Cheeto was good in the time that he was on the field in 2024? Because I think he got sort of a bad rap. People being like, well, he was hurt, or when he was healthy, he sucked. I didn't think he was bad.
No, I think that he was fine. Like, I don't think that he was. I wouldn't say that he was the strength of that room, but I think that he was a perfectly fine starting cornerback for the Titans.
Yeah.
But again, for the 8 or 9 games he played, like half the season. So
right. And so like the Titans move on, and you might wonder initially, like, oh, well, why are you in the market of like cutting some starting cornerbacks? I think this one was pretty clear. You had a logjam at cornerback. Your secondary you had 4 guys that were slated to start, and you can't really play 4 cornerbacks all the time. I think, there was a pretty clear effort for the Titans and Mike Borgonzi to get younger and develop some of the young talent on the roster. And so when you have a guy like Jarvis Brownlee sitting there, and he has an up and down rookie year, but shows a lot of flashes for was he a 4th round, 5th round pick? He was
Jarvis was a 5th rounder,
5th round pick, like, really impressive rookie season.
Mm-hmm.
You feel pretty good about how he might be able to develop. Well, now you got to make room for him to actually start, and you're paying L'Jarius Sneed a whole lot of money, which is guaranteed this year at least. He's making a lot of money this year. Cheeto was also getting some guaranteed money this year, but not nearly as much as Sneed. There was a little bit of cap savings. McCreary still on his rookie deal. So they move on to have Jarvis step into a bigger role and hopefully develop him. So that got me thinking, like, of those young players, because I think there will be quite a few of them on the Titans roster this year that are young, sort of unproven talents that they put into big spots with hopes of developing them.
Mm-hmm.
Who is the guy that is the breakout guy to watch? Who is like this breakout player to watch? So we're going to ask that question to all of you in the chat this morning here. Let us know which young, unproven Titans player is going to take the biggest step forward in 2025. We are looking for a young, unproven Titans player.
Is the key. That's the qualifier.
Unproven Titans player to take the biggest step forward in 2025. Easton, while the chat is kind of going there, what say you? What name came to mind for you?
Well, I hadn't really thought about my answer to this question until just now. And the first name that came to mind, do you have any idea who I'm going to say?
You
have a guess?
All right, let me get into Easton brain real quick.
Take into consideration the fact that I have a stupid grin on my face.
Oh, I hate that then. I don't know. What do you go ahead. I'm not even going to try.
The Bryce Oliver agenda. It's here. Bryce Oliver is the guy that I think is going to, and now again, is he going to be your receiver too? No. But went back over some Bryce Oliver tape from last year. He was a bigger part of the offense down the stretch than folks remember. He's somebody that I know that the Titans coaching staff thinks has the potential to be a more athletic Nick Westbrook-Ikine, who was an impact player for you the past couple of years. So do I think he's going to be this world beater that you're leaning on? No. But do I think that even as early as this year, he has the potential to become your bona fide wide receiver 4, maybe your bona fide wide receiver 3, a special teams ace, going to continue to use him as a gunner in that way. He's going to continue to get better at that. I do think that he's somebody that, I mean, listen, he has some juice. He has some real ability. And on a team that doesn't have a lot of guys that are capable of separation, he can separate a little bit. And I think that you saw there's a reason why he was a UDFA, because he was just a crazy raw. He didn't really know how to play the receiver position. And I think
special teams.
Well, yeah, he didn't really know how to play football, but he's a good athlete. And last year you saw leaps and bounds throughout the course of the season from him, both in practice and on the field. And when you talk to folks in the building, his teammates, his coaches, they would say this. They did say the same thing, that he put it together in a hurry. And so, he's somebody that I do think, again, tempering expectations. I'm not saying it's going to be incredible, but I do think he's going to be on the field a lot this year. You're going to hear his name quite a bit, and he's going to become kind of that NWI level household name. Bryce Oliver, 27 catches for 397 yards this year, a couple of touchdowns. It's going to be like, nice year for the UDFA. This is going to be a guy on the team for a little bit here.
Say those numbers again.
I just totally made something up.
Okay.
What I said? I said 29 catches, 397 yards, and a pair of touchdowns.
Yeah. So, I mean, like, for reference for everybody out there, like, Calvin Ridley played 888 offensive snaps last year. He was at 993 with the Jaguars the year before. So, like, a 900 sort of snap season can be expected from like an everyday starting wide receiver. Bryce Oliver had 6 catches, 95 yards last year. He played 67 offensive snaps. That's less than a tenth of a full season. And so significantly less than a tenth of a full season of snaps, almost 100 receiving yards, which 100 receiving yards is a tenth of 1,000. I'm not saying Bryce Oliver is a 1,000-yard receiver, but the
do the math, people.
The sample size of production to snaps is really intriguing, actually. And so with an increase in snaps, I don't think it's crazy to think that, if Bryce Oliver plays 300 offensive snaps next year, that he could also have 300 receiving yards and be an actual guy that is a remembered piece in that room for Titans fans.
Yeah, and why that's, all joking aside, why what you just said actually does mean something to me is that, again, when I went back and watched his tape and watched those 70 some odd snaps, usually when a guy is playing that volume as a depth receiver, you're being used as the clear out guy, you're being used as the decoy, you're running the third or fourth route in the progression because they're not expecting you, one, to really be able to get open because you're a bad receiver. And two, they don't want the responsibility of the play to be on your shoulders because you don't see action much. And so it's surprising whenever a guy has that clip of production on that amount of play. And it wasn't forced. Like when you watch it on tape, the reason why the ball is going to him is because he's the only one in the pattern getting open. He is running a polished route. He is finding the soft spot of the zone. There were a number of times on those 67 snaps where he was wide open and there was a sack or a scramble. Like it just didn't work out. Like these were not fluke. This was not fluke production from him. It was some quality receiver play. And that's what makes me think that he can put quality receiver play on tape on the field this year for the Titans.
Yeah, and I think let's also say this. This is Bryce Oliver pumping, but like Will Levis threw an 80-yard touchdown to Tay Martin that was supposed to go to Bryce Oliver.
That's right.
And Bryce Oliver was open on that play.
He was also there, yeah.
And so if that ball falls into Bryce Oliver's hands instead of Tay Martin's hands, now you're talking about a guy who played 60 snaps and had 170 yards and a touchdown with 10 catches and like 60 at snaps, in which case you're like, whoa, actually look at this guy. So I think you are correct to say that, I remember most of Bryce Oliver's catches. A lot of them occurred in person at Nissan Stadium. And I was just like, he was wide open in the middle of the field. Like he ran a really good route and got wide open right there. So
gut check for you. Gut check. End of the year, better numbers. Van Jefferson, Bryce Oliver.
Van Jefferson. Gut says Van Jefferson.
I'll say Bryce. I'll say
I think it could be close though. I think it could be close. Yeah, my gut says Van Jefferson on that one, only just because of the experience.
I won't be surprised either way, but I could see a late surge for young Bryce.
I can see that. I think that's kind of what I was weighing is I think early in the year it's going to be Van, as I think Van will be like at least the wide receiver 3 on the team, probably week 1.
Out of necessity. Yeah.
Out of necessity, right? And so if he's your wide receiver 3 and he's getting those Tyler Boyd snaps early in the year and he's on the field pretty consistently, he's going to put up production that where it might be tough for Bryce to close that late. But I wouldn't be surprised, and I would probably agree with the fact that by the end of the year, Oliver could have a bigger role than Jefferson in the offense.
I'm going to look this up while you move on, but what's the most Van Jefferson production he's ever had?
Oh, he had a 10 touchdown, like 900-yard season with the Rams.
That's what I was thinking. That he had one really good year, right?
Yeah, 2021 with the Rams. He was excellent.
He 2021 802 yards, 6 touchdowns on 50 catches. Yeah.
That's the Super Bowl winning Rams. He was the wide receiver 2 behind Cooper Kupp.
Yep. Since then, he's gone 369, 209, 108, 101, 276 last year with the Steelers. So.
All right. Well, we asked which young, unproven Titans player is going to take the biggest step forward in 2025. I'll get to the chat. I'll give you my answer. But before we do any of that, I'm going to tell you about my friends over at Bart Durham Injury Law, because you deserve to get paid. A crash can change your life forever, and help is only a click away at bartdurham.com. For your big truck wreck, it's their fight for justice, because a crash can significantly impact your life, and Bart Durham is here to help. You can reach Bart Durham team 24/7 to get your legal questions answered. Listen, you deserve to be paid. You deserve to be paid, whether it's your perfect bracket and you're not getting sent to Mars, or a truck wreck that you deserve compensation for. You deserve to be paid, and the attorneys at Bart Durham are available to meet with you wherever's most convenient, including virtually our guy Blair. He's a Marine veteran. They're located in Capitol View, Nashville, and are local, but can fight for anybody in the Kentucky or Tennessee area that's been in an auto accident. Go hit them up, bartdurham.com, for Bart Durham Injury Law.
There's so much more to say, but first, make sure you've given us a 5-star Google review. Go to Google, search ATOZ Sports, look for the review portion of our business entity there at the top of the screen. It'll be like A to Z Sports. They're a business. Here's their website. You can call them or something. You can't call us. We don't have a number, but you can leave a review.
Wait. I have something for this.
You do? Oh, yeah, for
a Lou Man special, baby.
The 5-star Lou Man special. Maybe we should go on there and update the business entity to have a number and just make it Austin's or Zach's, so that people just directly call them.
I love that idea.
I think that should just be a direct line to Zach Bingham. We'll work on that. But leave a 5-star review over there, because we're trying to tamp down any past bad reviews by getting a flat 5.0. I believe we're still at a 4.9, which means we need more 5-star reviews from you fine folks. Thank you for doing that. All right, Sam, now we can talk about more potential breakout stars.
More potential breakout stars. Joe Blanco says Cedric Gray easily is his call. I see Jarvis Brownlee. I see Sweat pass rush. So, all right, 3
is
people.
Sweat unproven?
So that's what I was about to ask. Zenzi said J.C. Latham as well. J.C. Latham, Tavondre Sweat, do either of them count for this figure?
They are both big jump candidates, but I think it's a little bit of a stretch to say that they are unproven.
What I'm looking for here is more of the guy who's not an NFL starter, who develops and you're like, oh, that guy is actually a good piece for you moving forward.
He's somebody that has not locked down a starting job, right? Like Tavondre is a lock starter already. JC is a lock starter.
Somebody you're not accounting for when you're factoring in the future of the team right now. And
I guess Brownlee is now a lock starter just because of what they've done. But like going into the offseason, he wasn't one. And they're showing their faith now.
But like Brownlee, Sweat, Latham, like I think those are the names that come to mind when you think about the future of the Titans. Mm-hmm. I'm trying to do a little bit of a deeper cut into who you like this. I think, is that fair? Like
no, I do. I do think that's
somebody who's a little bit on that next level, like Cedric Gray, or
that counts for sure.
Darius says James Williams, DMR, David Martin Robinson. I'm so used to seeing DTR that just doesn't look right to me.
I know.
Like Curtis says, Roger McCreary. I don't count Roger McCreary for this.
No, he's so proven. He's so proven.
Eric says Will Levis. Love it.
Hey,
I love the chaos.
That qualifies as an answer right there.
Does qualify. Bryce Oliver from Malachi. Don says, I don't know, Traylon Burks. DeMarco says
also
Traylon
qualifies.
Nope, just kidding.
Also qualifies.
David Martin Robinson, Cedric Gray, Big Bryce Oliver. Let's see. We have more. Dan Moore, I would say, is probably locked in as a proven player.
I don't think you get an $80 million contract if you're unproven, but
Cap says Shedeur Sanders is going to be the Titans guy. Love that call.
Taking a swing.
Cedric Gray, James Williams, Bryce Oliver, Gray, the middle linebacker. A lot of Cedric Gray. Some Traylon Burks troll jobs here in the chat. More
Colton
Bryce
Dowell.
Oliver.
I see one Colton Dowell in there.
We have an Otis Reese mention. We have a Tajay Spears mention. I think Tajay might
Yeah.
qualify now after he went backwards last year. You could make that case.
Nah.
Savion Williams, you're gonna love that one.
Yeah, let's go.
Corey, NPF, taking a leap.
Hey, mods, kick him.
Like this call by Chris as well. Jalen Harold, he deserves his name being brought up here.
All right, sure.
I will make my call.
Who's your guy?
And then we have a Colton Dowell there late. I'm going to look at.
Somebody said Morgan Cox, who is neither unproven nor young.
No, he is the most proven oldest guy on the team.
Yeah.
I am going to look at the inside linebacker position where I don't believe they're going to add a starter in free agency.
Okay.
I think that there is going to be one of these guys that the Titans have on the roster is going to be the starter in 2025 alongside Cody Barton. And the guy that I look at is James Williams. I think the one guy to me who has an excuse for not necessarily being the most polished linebacker because he's a safety that gained some weight. And
he's been doing it for 10 seconds. Yeah.
But I think the Titans were really impressed with James Williams late in the year. He sort of emerged as like the guy that they ended up going to. Of that Gray, Reese, Williams trio, I have the most faith in James Williams, and I think he's the most likely to get an opportunity. Late in the year, he had 8 tackles against Cincinnati in week 15, 6 tackles against the Colts in week 16, 6 tackles against the Texans in week 18. His snap counts those 3 weeks, 43, 39, 28. Those were the 3 weeks that he played, and I think he had pretty decent efforts. So I think Williams, he has the ability to, if we're looking at what is the scheme fit for the Titans, what is the guy that they need? Well, they need a cover guy. And, a guy who is a safety, a former safety, a much better athlete is the best complement more than like Cedric Gray is a downhill tackler. That's what he was at UNC. That's how I think he projects into the NFL. Like Cedric Gray's weakness is pass coverage, but we know he can get downhill and stop the run, or at least that's what we saw from him as a college prospect. I think James Williams is the guy that was available, that was healthy, that is a cover guy, that is young. And if we're to believe the Titans are taking a shot on young players, especially on defense, and hoping to develop him, I think by the end of next year, he's at least a piece to remember and a significant part of this defense.
Yeah, I like that answer. I could totally see that happening. And if the question were to be, what's the most important young player to break out, it's either Cedric Gray or James Williams. I think in terms of the functionality of this defense, again, returning to being a strength of the team, assuming they don't add a starter, which I think you're right, they're not inclined to do necessarily.
They might add another like rotational linebacker at some
they
point.
Probably will, but
they could draft a guy late in the draft that they add to that mix of young linebackers that they're going to try here, but
nobody clearly above them. That's kind of what we're saying here.
Yeah.
So and that's because they I mean, I have talked to folks in the building in the past month about this. One of these guys needs to step up. One of these guys is expected to step up, and I what I don't know is whether or not they have an inkling. Maybe I should be speaking on this about who it is. I'm not sure they care, right? It's just like, hey, they're breaking the pool cue, throwing it out and say, one of you win this job. Somebody figure it out. Because you both have a lot of ability, and one of you is a higher pedigree guy, and one of you had more experience and more success last year. And between the two of you, somebody can play this role. We need one of you to play this role. So I think that they are going to probably do that. And I don't hate that. I mean, despite him being a lower pedigree, later draft pick, I do think based off of what we saw last year, Williams is probably the leader in the clubhouse right now. And if Gray were to take that job from him, it's going to take a lot of work in the next 4 months.
Gray on potential should be the leader in the clubhouse. He was damn near a top 100 draft pick. Like he's the guy that they invested in, but James Williams was the guy that produced more and was more available. And so right now you have to go based on what have you done in the NFL. And then I think scheme fit matters to like, I think Cody Barton, I think is much more similar to Cedric Gray than Cody Barton is similar to James Williams. And I think that could matter as well. get to some super chats before we move on here. Andre came in and said, we were told Skoronski would mess his development. Yet moving Skoronski would mess his development. Yet they moved to JC. Should have tried Skoronski at the tackle spot. It might have worked. 2025 tackles have short arms as well. You're not wrong about the fact that the short arms have tackle, and that is what we were told. I don't know if that makes it necessarily untrue, though, because guard to tackle is a much more significant change than left tackle to right tackle. Those are, Easton, do you care to say anything
No,
about that?
you're right. And we're also talking about 1 year removed, right? Skoronski's been playing guard for multiple years now. His development track has been geared towards a significant fundamental shift in play from his college tackle days to his NFL guard days. Going from tackle to tackle spot as a swing tackle is not a fundamental change. It's just a mirror. That's all.
Yeah, and I think part of the Skoronski thing was also, I think, lack of faith that they're creating a hole to fill a hole.
Mm-hmm.
Like if they moved Skoronski from left guard to left tackle that one season, they didn't have a left guard. Like Radens was having some injury issues, and they were kind of still trying him on the right side. I don't think they had confidence that there was Corey Levin at left guard did not ease
inspire
any of
confidence.
Yeah, it didn't inspire a ton of confidence in them. They liked him more as a center.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that was part of the issue as well, versus now there was a deliberate reason to move JC Latham because it does plug both spots and you are able to fill the left tackle role. And so I think that made them more inclined, I guess, to make that move. They were not crazy about moving JC for a while. Like they intended to have JC as the left tackle until signing a left tackle and moving him became the path of least resistance to fixing the offensive line. Amnesia, out of all the new players for the Titans, the person we need to have the biggest breakout year is Brian Callahan. He has to have a better year.
Sure.
I would agree. Yeah. I mean, a breakout, a year where Brian Callahan gets more comfortable and has he has claimed in his press conferences like that he's learned a lot about the job and what it takes and how to handle things a little bit differently. And he tends on doing that in 2025. And I think all of that is big. I think it will be a big year for Brian Callahan in terms of what the perception of him is, because Easton, you maintained throughout much of the season, Callahan's offense, the scheme, some of this stuff was working, and the players were really shooting them in the foot with their inability to execute. If we are to subscribe to that idea, right, there with a better offensive line this year and potentially drafting a quarterback number 1 overall, we are going to sort of get a truth and get the truth about Brian Callahan's system and scheme. And so I don't think it's far-fetched to believe that we could be the national perception of Brian Callahan after 2025 could be much different if the Titans have a more explosive offense and they'll be like, oh, this guy really knows what he's doing offensively.
Yeah, no, I agree. Everything you just said about my preaching of last year is on par. And so while I don't think it would be a breakout year necessarily for Brian Callahan, at least in my eyes, I do think
I think it's a breakout nationally, though. Like I don't think
sure.
People, I don't think people nationally think of Brian Callahan as anything right now. They're just kind of like, oh,
they think of him as the guy that's about to be fired. That's what they think.
Yeah, right. He was the coach of the Titans. They sucked, But like, I think a big year for the offense is a national breakout for Brian Callahan as one of the top offensive coaches in the sport.
Yeah, that would be the breakout, and so that would be a good thing this year. So I agree in that way.
All right. Well, hey, let's go ahead and transition real quick. Easton, let's talk some brackets. Let's talk March Madness. I'm well prepared for this. We are going to do this today. We're going to do a little bit of this tomorrow. If anybody in the chat has a note or a prediction about March Madness that you want to share, or if you have questions about March Madness that you want us to discuss in the NCAA tournament, we're going to do that here for the next 10 minutes or so before we throw some shade and get out of here. But Easton, what say you? You said you had some I guess, questions you wanted to.
Yeah, I could hit you with some questions. Well, you keep talking about all these sticky notes you have on your desk.
I do.
And I'm curious what's on the notes. And so we've got the bracket out now. And, there's a lot of talk about the SEC. Is this the year that the SEC dominance breaks through? A record-breaking 14 teams in the field. You got some really highly seeded teams. Just off the top, my initial gut take as somebody that has paid minimal attention to college basketball until basically last weekend, it does feel like the narrative is writing itself, Sam, that the SEC contingency is puffing their chest out right now. Record-breaking number of teams in the field, dominant year for the conference. Oh, SEC's the football and the basketball conference now. And the SEC in the tournament's probably going to have an incredible first weekend. And the SEC, it's half the field heading into weekend number 2 is going to basically be SEC. And the SEC fever pitch is going to reach a new high. And then just inevitably there'll be a collapse. And 7 of the teams will die early, and the backlash will be unbelievable from the anti-SEC crew. That's what feels like is going to happen to me just off the top.
Here was something that I brought up yesterday, which I think is the biggest question about how the bracket plays out. The SEC is
the biggest question. Okay.
The biggest question about how the bracket plays out is how good is the SEC?
Right.
Like how good are they actually?
Mm-hmm.
Because it feels to me, right? And I'm the resident SEC hater. So I am admitting that this is a hater take.
You're doubting it?
It feels to me, and I'm trying to get so that I don't disappear all the time here in my background.
It's okay.
My shoulder keeps going away.
Uh-huh.
It feels a lot to me like what we do in football, which is this idea of the SEC is amazing. Well, why? Because they're the SEC.
Right.
Well, who have they played? Well, look at Florida. They played Alabama and Tennessee. Well, those are SEC teams, right? And when you look at the out of conference for a lot of the SEC teams, it's not great. Florida's out of conference. South Florida, Jacksonville, Grambling, Florida State, Florida A&M, South Florida, Wake Forest, Virginia, Arizona State, North Florida, Stetson, North Carolina. I guess North Carolina was supposed to be a good game, but they had a very bad year. There wasn't
talking about clear tournament team, North Carolina.
North Carolina is the only team that I just listed that they played out of conference that made the field of 68.
And
Florida played one team out of conference that made the field of 68, and it was North Carolina, who everybody agrees doesn't deserve to be in. Yeah. Now, perhaps the SEC being battle tested against Auburn and Tennessee and Alabama is great and good enough. But I think there's also a chance that
so I got a question for you. Question for you. So of this SEC field, because obviously it's we make it about the full field, SEC as a group, when in reality,
by my shoulder, just everybody.
It's okay. Some of these teams are gonna end up being frauds, and some of them aren't. So my question to you is, which SEC team are you most confident is real, and which team are you most expecting to be a fraud?
It's a great question. Most confident is real. I'm going with Auburn, the number 1 overall seed, but I think they're the number 1 overall seed for good reason. This is a team that has played some out of conference opponents. They beat Iowa State. They beat Houston earlier in the year, who's a 1 seed. Iowa State's on a 3 line. They too beat North Carolina. They beat Memphis. They beat Ohio State. They beat Purdue, Texas. This is a real battle-tested team. Mm-hmm. Janai Broome is one of the best players in the country, so I think they have a star that can take over games and score with the best of them. And then I think
I heard from their coach that their guards are not. I forget the word he used, but something. Their
guards aren't something, which I think is also very true. Miles Kelly's a really good two-way guard, and when you have guards in March that can take over a game, I think that seems to be a trendy pick right now. That guards win you championships in March.
So who's the fraud?
I think it's Alabama. Alabama can't defend. Alabama's the number 1 offense in the country. They're the best rebounding team in the country, but they've lost 4 of their last 9 because they're sort of limping into the dance because they give up 100 points pretty regularly. Right. So if you go with a team that plays a contradicting style to Alabama, I think they're going to get got. And so this is what I talk about when I look at a team like Florida is teams that don't play teams outside of their conference that are good tournament caliber teams, I think can get surprised in March by a different stylistic basketball. Like the SEC runs, they play fast-paced, quick tempo basketball. There are no teams really in the SEC that like to slow it down and defense you to death. It's a high-scoring league. The only team that really does that is Tennessee. And Tennessee gave a lot of problems to teams randomly throughough the year. Tennessee's the one team that doesn't shoot particularly well, but they play really good defense. I think Alabama is a team. I have them losing in the second round. I don't think they make it out of the first weekend. And I'm watching St. Mary's to beat Alabama. St. Mary's 357th in the country in tempo. Alabama
357th.
They are almost dead last in tempo.
That's incredible.
And the other thing St. Mary's does, they rebound, which is what Alabama does. So it's another team that can actually contest Alabama on the glass and will slow them down and maybe win a 55-51 basketball game against a team that likes to score 90 points. So I like St. Mary's in that game. And so I like to look at teams, and this is the trend with all of my picks that I like to take deep in March. Who are the teams that are coming in relatively hot, have a lot of experience and continuity? I like teams that can shoot, but not teams that jack threes. I don't want a team that relies on the three-point shot. And then I need a team that has gotten a little bit of taste of everything. They need a taste of what they need a taste of what the Ivy League is like. I love a team that's played Harvard or Yale early in the year. I like a team that has a taste of Big 12 basketball. They've played a Big 10 team. They've played some neutral site games. That is what I look for in a team that has all of the experience necessary to go deep. Okay,
next question. Flag plant, round 1, big upset. Where's it happening? Who is chopped liver round 1? A high seed that is just a dead man walking.
Oh man, well it's tough. Like, what do you consider? That?
If I gave you $50 and said, Sam, you have to put this on a money line of a 12 seater higher that's going to win round 1, whose money line you putting it on?
12 seed or higher. I like Liberty to beat Oregon.
Okay. How come?
Everybody's hype on Dana Altman. Dana Altman has the most NCAA tournament wins. I like Drake over Mizzou too, by the way, but that's an 11 over a 6. Everybody's high on Dana Altman, most experienced coach in the dance, has the most NCAA tournament wins of any active coach right now. Shocking statistic for Dana Altman at Oregon. But Oregon has sort of done this wave throughout the entire season. They started the year incredible. They had one loss. Then Illinois went to Eugene and beat them by 29 in their own building.
Hello.
And it was kind of like, whoa, Oregon can do this. Then they sort of lost like 6 in a row at one point in the chunk of their season. They've started to heat up a little bit late, but I think Liberty is a team that kind of makes people uncomfortable with the amount of three-pointers they take. When I talk about three-pointers, I like an upset team. I like my mid-major shooting, and I need my my Power 5 conference teams not relying on the three-point shot. You need to be able to do it in a big game, but I think what team can capture magic? I think Liberty has that thing, magic. I would not put money on this, but actually I might put money on this. The other team that I'm going to put, I'm not talking about Liberty, but here's the other, the extreme one. And I know this is, everybody scream at me, whatever. Lipscomb over Iowa State might happen.
Yeah, saw this coming. Yeah.
Lipscomb is a top 5 team in the country at free throw percentage and getting to the free throw line. So I think that they're going to be able to keep this closer than you think. Iowa State's best player is hurt right now and not going to play in that game. And their second best player is a little bit banged up, might play at less than 100%. Lipscomb is another team. They play at this pace of play, similar to what we saw Princeton do in the Ivy League when they made that deep run 2 years ago. They have 5 guys, all of them shoot. Their bigs don't like to play in the post. Their bigs like to post up and shoot threes. If Lipscomb's not hitting their threes, it's going to be an ugly game. But I do think there is a chance here that they get hot early with Joe Anderson and Jacob Ognosovich, and they're hitting some of these threes. And then all of a sudden, Iowa State's playing from behind, which is not a comfortable place for them to be.
Jeff says UC San Diego, Sam. I know you were.
I don't like UC San Diego.
I know you don't.
Everything in everybody, the money is so heavily on UC San Diego that they're almost favored in a game over Michigan, the Big Ten tournament champs. But UC San Diego has this gaudy 30-4 record. It's their first year eligible to make the NCAA tournament, so people love UC San Diego as like a cool story. And they play intriguing basketball because it's all about ball movement, and similar to St. Mary's, they slow the tempo down. My issue with UC San Diego is they don't really shoot well. They can't shoot well, and they don't shoot the ball. Like
Billy, their one flaw is they can't shoot.
I mean, they are a team that they like to beat you 56-52, and it's not even because you got locked down defensively. I mean, they will turn you over, and Michigan has the highest rate of turnovers in the entire country. So that is the mismatch that everybody is looking at to point to their put in their money on UC San Diego. I just don't think the Tritons have seen a team with the amount of athleticism or skill that Michigan has, and they're playing really, really hot right now. And also, they have a head coach who's done it in March before. You know, he took FAU to the Final Four. I think he can win a game with Michigan.
All right. That's some good stuff. You know, I think tomorrow on the show, we'll probably have some more to say. I'm going to be doing part of my day today on my schedule is crash course some basketball takes. So I'll probably have some more to say tomorrow, but there's some good info from you. I appreciate it.
I've got two teams. The two teams that I have matching up in the national championship game. Here's a little tease for tomorrow, for the bracket tomorrow.
All right.
I will give you the two teams that I have playing in the national title game, and I have whole kind of sticky notes about exactly why.
Okay.
And the number two thing that's coming tomorrow is a double-digit seed that's going to make the Elite Eight. I will give you that tomorrow on the show.
Wow.
A double-digit seed that will win at least 3 tournament games. Calling my shot tomorrow on the show. So if you need that,
I love that.
If you need the pick for the bracket, tune in tomorrow to the end of the show.
Well, I think we might actually do a game tomorrow. Might do a little Calcutta, a little team draft. Sam and I, a little friendly competition.
Okay.
We'll see. You know, we've got time to fill tomorrow, so we'll have some fun with it. But I think we can get to some shade today and get out of here.
Let's throw some shade, baby. It is a Tuesday throwing shade. Throwing shade, it's brought to you by our friends over at Wilson County Hyundai. Make them a part of your new car buying process in Lebanon or at wilsoncountyhyundai.com. Easton, what's on your mind this week? What are we throwing shade at?
Speaking of things that I haven't thought about until just now, I don't know, do you have an obvious one that I can buy some time to think about?
I'm not sure. I do. So hang on. Kenneth says, are we doing a bracket challenge? I will talk to Austin. We've done that in the past, I think 2 or 3 years running now.
That's easy to set up. That should be.
I feel like we would already have it open if we were going to do it, but so we will see. I am going to throw shade. I do have one for you and I have one for me. Okay.
Oh,
both
like one about me or one for me?
No, one for you, but it is about you.
Oh, okay.
But it's like you should throw shade at this thing.
Oh, okay. All right, I'm listening.
So my first one is going to be I am going to talk about March Madness. I think that's the easiest layup for me right now. Have you seen the UNC stuff?
Yeah.
Have you seen the fact that the guy who is he is in charge of deciding who
chairs the committee? Yeah.
The chairman of the committee that determines the NCAA tournament basically is the athletic director at North Carolina. And then it's like, and I found this hilarious. I was listening to Pardon My Take talk about this issue. I thought they made such great points because on the selection show, this guy, I think his name's like Bubba Chandler or something like that, which is such a UNC name. This guy was like, hey, I just want to say I had to recuse myself when we were talking about the Tar Heels. And then they were like, well, can you talk about that process? And the guy was like, well, I'm actually going to pass it over to him over here because I wasn't part of those conversations. So I'm actually going to pass it over to him. So he made the other guy answer all the difficult questions. Which was hilarious.
I respect that, actually. That's
the other
funny.
guy sitting there getting grilled about like, what do you say to the people who, and he just passed it over there. And then additionally, it's like, okay, I do believe that, right? I believe that he recused himself from the room, but it would be like, hey, Hey, Easton. Hey, chat, guys. So I'm gonna log off the stream real quick. I'm gonna go pee. I'll make some coffee. I'll come back. You guys decide if I keep my job or not. All right.
Right.
And then we'll see when I come back. Okay. All right. Sounds good, guys. And then I leave, and then I come back, and I go,
what do we think?
Oh, what do we think, fellas? I think there's that idea of like they all looked at each other like, yo, Bubba's gonna be pissed if we don't put UNC in. Like we gotta, yeah. And then apparently, I thought it was the perfect compromise by the committee. What they came to was this idea of, well, Bubba, like, here's the thing is they might get in, they might not. They're actually the last team out right now, or they're actually in. They're the last team in right now. So it's really all hinging on UAB Memphis. If Memphis wins, then North Carolina's in. If UAB wins that game, though, we're going to have to push North Carolina out. So they kind of gave them like a little half in, half out sort of a thing. And then UNC ends up in. So shade on that because I was dumb. I played myself, actually. I was on Twitter. John Rothstein tweeted something out about how odds to make the NCAA tournament, North Carolina was like plus 380 the day before the selection Sunday. And I was this close to just emptying a bag on UNC because I knew that this would happen. And like a team like the Tar Heels gets in. If they have any sort of prayer at getting in, they get in.
Yeah.
Now tough. Your shade.
Okay.
Because I saw somebody say this earlier. Zach Lyons going to the Titans media Final Four, and Easton, you are criminally underseeded. Criminally underseeded.
I appreciate that. Yeah, I mean that was my only tweet on the matter was when that came out, and I saw that my 8-9. First of all, being a 9 seed, kind of crazy. I know it's based on Twitter followers, which is fine, whatever. But my 8 competition being my good friend Zach. And not be, I mean, like I sent you, hey, I'm going to pull it up. The list of people I could have faced in 8-9 matchups 2 days ago that I don't know how it was decided who you played who, but the 8-9 matchups I could have been a part of. Titans Rossi, David Beauclair, Titans Anderson, Sal from Jersey, our buddy Austin Stanley, who's currently MIA, or Corey Curtis. But I get put against Twitter powerhouse Zach Lyons. And if I were to have won that matchup, I would have then had to face PK. So just a nasty,
bad draw. It was a bad
draw. Tough. It is what it is. Listen, this tournament always ends up just being Mike Herndon versus whoever makes it through.
Yeah.
Despite increasingly having nothing to do with Titans media, who like Mike, I love you, and he understands this. He's got a very successful engineering company that he runs, and he lives in Texas now. But like he's not in town anymore. He doesn't even write weekly anymore. He just kind of tweets things about the Titans, and that's the qualifications to be in this tournament. And people love him on Twitter because he's a great guy. He's got a very strong following. The Mike Herndon hive is alive and well. One walking away this year, it will be Mike Herndon versus whoever makes it on the other side of the tournament bracket, and we'll see if he wins again. I'm going to guess he probably wins again.
Well, I'm getting I don't know what happened. It was one of those odd situations. I went to sleep up like 70-30 on Ron Slay in my round 2 matchup. Woke up down 56 for 50.
Dude, that's what happened to me with 44. Zach. Twitter releases with these big polls. Maybe it's bots, I don't know. But I was going to dinner 2 nights ago, and I was up 62-38 on Zach with about 1,000 votes in. And then I got back from dinner 2 hours later, and there had been 800 new votes, and I was suddenly flipped down 40-60. So I think the rig is. I think the fix is in.
Elon, it's all Elon.
The fix.
He wants to send the prize for the Titans media bracket should be a trip to Mars. That's what we should do.
Then we can vote for who we want to ship off planet. I like that idea. Actually,
Paul's odds would go up tremendously.
Teresa Walker and Paul Garski's odds.
They've become the betting favorite.
They would.
All right, listen. I did just retweet from the A to Z account, Sam Phelan versus Ron Slay. If everybody in the chat, right now,
all right,
goes and votes for Sam Phelan, we might be able to make a push for Slay. I don't want to have to elicit help from the survivor community. But I'm 3 hours from death,
you're not
I'm
beneath
thinking about
It's
it.
not beneath you. Yeah, it's not
I'm
beneath you.
thinking about it. So I'm just seeing how strong is the A to Z community? How strong? This is a challenge. This is like liking the show and leaving a 5. If you guys can leave a 5-star review, you can tap Sam Phelan on a Twitter poll.
My mind is still stuck on the idea. It would actually be wildly entertaining if we sent Paul to Mars and gave him internet access the whole time so he could just tweet his thoughts and mostly complaints, bitching and moaning his way to another planet.
Paul moping about like the weather in Mars or something like that.
Right, exactly. They sent me to Mars. They can't even give me a good pillow. My neck support. It's unbelievable. All of the things he would complain about. It'd be great content, frankly. I'd be glued to I'd turn Paul Kaharski Mars Twitter notifications on.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Right,
That's hilarious. Okay. All for us today. We're back tomorrow. Easton, we're doing a mock draft tomorrow because I have an updated Titans mock draft coming out later today on A2Zsports.com. We will talk about that mock draft. We will talk about all of those nice little bracket teases and maybe do a little bit of a team game sort of a thing between Easton and I, a little rivalry before March begins. Love to see it. Thanks for being with us. Till then, tighten up.